Welcome to a special 3026 breakdown. I am Jon Lee, and in this video we're going to get back to gambling. Woo, gambling! And I'm going to be breaking down the main event of UFC Denver, Shevchenko versus Pena. So let's get started. So I actually thought the odds on this fight were pretty spot on when Shevchenko opened minus 170. So I was pretty shocked when I saw Shevchenko minus 110 and it's 1 point plus 100. So I started to research this fight because to me it seemed like it was a experienced fighter against a prospect. In the striking, Shevchenko has a huge striking advantage. Like Pena's striking is bad and predictable. She throws one, maybe two jabs, then she rushes in with a flurry of wild hooks to basically grab the clinch. If you watch all of her fights, I watched the Dudiva fight, which really it should be Melania Udiva because there was no D on the ground. I watched the Pena fight, and the Zingano fight, and I watched the Jessica Eye fight, and she did it in every one of those fights. Zingano closed the distance on her once, but other than that, she does that at the beginning of every fight. So Shevchenko's a world-class striker. That's not going to work. Shevchenko's either going to circle out, or she might duck under and hit a takedown, which she's really good at. So I think this is a big area of advantage for Shevchenko. If it stays standing, it's a mismatch. And I had to put the picture of Issa Rae there so that everyone knows that I'm making an Issa joke and that I didn't just misspell that. The thing is, I think it's going to even be difficult for Pena to rush in because I think at distance she's going to get chewed up by leg kicks. Shevchenko just has great leg kicks, man. She just hits them and then she's out, and she's such a good counter puncher. That right hook counter is going to just start landing over and over again as Pena tries to come in and throws jabs or hooks. And then as she gets comfortable, she's going to start opening up with combos. That's what happened with Holly Holm. It took a couple rounds, it took 3 rounds with Holly Holm before Shevchenko really started opening up with more than 1 or 2 attacks at a time. And same with Nunes. It took till the 3rd round. But once she gets going, man, it's pretty beautiful to watch. And I think she's just going to beat Pena up as Pena tries to come in. Pena has to get this down. The other thing that really stood out, it might be my Dutch kickboxing background, is that Shevchenko is just a master of distance. It's no coincidence that Holly Holm and Amanda Nunes both spend a long time on the feet swinging at air because Shevchenko's so good at presenting a false distance. She makes you think she's closer than she is. You throw a strike, and then she's out of there. It's pretty crazy to watch. Like, if you watch the Nunes fight and the Holm fight, you think she's there, they throw something, they hit air, and then Shevchenko jumps in and kicks the hell out of their legs. Like, it happens over and over and over again, or she hits that right-hand counter over the top. So she's really good at striking. It's kind of in vogue to say that Joanna Jędrzejczyk is the best pure striker in MMA, but Shevchenko beat her 3 times in pure striking. And yeah, she's a little bit bigger, and she is really good in the clinch, but that's the level of striking Shevchenko has. Shevchenko is an outstanding striker. She's one of the 5 or 6 best strikers in the entire UFC, and Pena is really bad at striking. Let's move on to the grappling. The one reason I could see why the line dropped dramatically, besides Pena being a very good and effective self-promoter, is the fact that Shevchenko spent almost 3 minutes on her back against Nunes in the 2nd round and over 2.5 minutes on her back against Kaufman in the 3rd round. So let's look at these one by one. The first we'll look at is Nunes. Well, number 1, Nunes is the champ. Number 2, Nunes really hurt Shevchenko with ground and pound in a way that I don't think Pena is capable of. Pena has really good elbows. If Pena was able to cut her or land a good elbow and break her orbital bone or something, that could change the fight. She definitely is capable of doing that. Pena's a powerful athlete, but Nunes has different level power. I think we've seen that. And also, Shevchenko was able to survive. Nunes had a rear naked choke locked in, and not only was Shevchenko able to get out of it, she ended that round on top. So, that's bad, but I think Nunes is much better than Pena, and Shevchenko was still able to survive, and then Nunes gassed out, and Shevchenko won the 3rd round pretty handily, and we're at a 5-round fight like this fight, she would have probably finished Nunes. Now, the Kaufman one, is a little more alarming because Kaufman's not a very good wrestler. Kaufman doesn't have any wins by submission, and Kaufman was able to end that fight in mount. Well, she got reversed with like 5 seconds left, which shows that Shevchenko fights, man. Like, even, after being mounted and like hit with like 8 or 9 seconds left, she gets out of that mount and ends up, on her feet with Kaufman, which is cool. And, she fought through Nunes, beating the hell out of her. But, Kaufman's not a great grappler. She was able to get mount. Pena's probably a better grappler against Kaufman. The only thing is, she took that fight against Kaufman on 8 days' notice, and she dominated the first 2 rounds. So it's possible she just was kind of gassed. She tends to use this knee shield guard when she's on her back, which is not super effective. It's like so effective. She doesn't get the hell beaten out of her too bad, but she's not great at getting up. She almost got up against Nunes, but Nunes was able to hit a reactive takedown and get her back down in the second. So that definitely is a thing. Like, if Julianna Pena is going to be able to win this fight, it'll be because she gets her down and either submits her or, just consistently beats her up and either TKOs her or wins a decision. I think the decision is the least likely there. I think it's most likely if Pena wins that she probably gets a submission, which seems tough given that Nunes had one locked in and couldn't get it done. But here's where I raise the spoiler alert. I actually think Shevchenko is a better grappler than Pena. She's not better at submissions. She's not a better submission fighter, but I think in terms of her takedowns, Shevchenko hit sick duck under takedowns. She hit a nice head and arm throw. She's got good trips from the clinch. Shevchenko's really good at grappling, man. And like, she got to the crucifix position against Holm quickly. She had some good positions against Nunes as well and was landing some good ground and pound. Shevchenko is no slouch as a grappler, and in the clinch, she's just amazing. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I don't think Pena is going to be able to just kind of bull rush Shevchenko down. And, if you look at how she got to the ground against and Zingano and even Dudiva got 2 takedowns in like 30 seconds. She couldn't get the first one because she wasn't strong enough because she was majorly outsized, and Julianna's, a good athlete. But she basically got a good position and just couldn't hit the takedown because she wasn't strong enough. And then she got Pena down. And then I got her down pretty much at will, and Pena was pulling guard in that fight. And Zingano basically punched herself into the clinch and then got into a grappling battle where Pena was able to reverse her. So I don't think Shevchenko is going to do any of those things. I think if Pena is going to get Shevchenko down, she's going to have to get her to the fence, which is going to be difficult because Shevchenko has great footwork. She circles out well. And then she's going to have to go through the clinch, which we'll talk about now. This is honestly where I think the fight will be won, because I think that Pena is not going to be able to shoot doubles and get Shevchenko down. We've seen that she's not the best with takedowns from the outside. She fell down shooting a takedown. It might have been against Dudiva or she's really athletic. Her and Aljamain Sterling, who I think are both similar fighters at this point, they're good at enforcing their will with athleticism, but when there's someone who has footwork, who has technical abilities, I think that's going to be a problem. As I mentioned before, Pena likes to bull her way into the clinch, and she is tough and big, but she's also not very technical. If you look at, again, those 3 fights that I keep mentioning, a lot of the time, she's just kind of trying to secure underhooks or get her arms around her opponent or behind them. It's really not very technical. She's not getting the tie plum. She's not grabbing like really tight underhooks and overhooks. She's not blocking knees. She's just kind of trying to get her head under your chin or on your shoulder and kind of grind you. Whereas Shevchenko is every bit the Eastern European technician in the clinch that she is standing. If you look, like, her grips are always correct. Her clinch defense is really good. She blocks knees really well. She grabs position well. She gets to the tie plum. Like, she's just really sharp in the clinch, man. She's really good in that. Like, it's one of, if not her best areas, one of her top areas where she really outclasses people by just technically being better and doing everything a little bit sharper. So I think it's going to be tough for Pena to win those clinch battles consistently enough to get takedowns and keep Shevchenko down. And the other thing is that very few fighters punish fighters for diving for the clinch or reaching for the clinch as well as Shevchenko does. I think we'll see a lot of Pena diving for the clinch or takedowns like she does in every fight, and she's going to take a lot more punishment than she's used to. And Shevchenko is smart. I can't remember exactly what fight it was, but one girl had a knee down, and so Shevchenko was about to hit her with a knee, saw the knee was down, and just switched to a bunch of quick punches and just laced her with like 4 or 5 short punches real quick. She's really smart, man. She's really technical. She's really calm. She's really controlled. And I think that when Pena tries to get wild and make it an ugly fight, it's going to be kind of like the Derek Brunson-Robert Whittaker fight, where she's just going to end up getting clipped coming in a lot more. And the last thing is experience. This is Pena's first main event and first 5-round fight. Shevchenko is a 17-time Muay Thai champion and has already headlined a 5-round main event against Holly Holm, where she came in as a 3-1 dog and really controlled Holly Holm. Outside of the first round, comfortably won every round against a fighter who is world class, has beaten championship fighters and was beating Miesha Tate until she got caught, So that's a better win than anything Pena has, and I think that experience is going to just add to this. I really think this is a coming out party for Shevchenko. This fight really reminds me of the Sterling Assunção fight, which is also on this card, and which I'll also have a gambling breakdown for, where you have a big athletic grappler prospect who's going up against a very experienced championship level fighter. Like, let's not kid ourselves. Like, this is a title eliminator for Shevchenko, and should be. You could argue she probably should already have been fighting for the title, but Pena made a lot of noise, because her fight with Nunes was close and she beat Holly Holm. And Assunção, you could really argue that if not for that ankle injury, he could have already been in a championship fight and possibly been the champion. I mean, I think Assunção is so good and so underrated, rather. And I think Shevchenko is similarly underrated. She had the Nunes loss, but Nunes is the champion, and that fight was close, man. Nunes couldn't put her away like she puts away everyone else, and Shevchenko came back and was beating her up in the 3rd round. So we'll see, but this feels like a mismatch. Or in other words, Pena's about to catch that beat him down. In fact, if Pena can't get Shevchenko down and keep her down, because it's quite possible that Pena rushes in, probably doesn't catch Shevchenko, because Shevchenko's a really good defensive fighter, but, corrals her to the fence, gets her down. But Shevchenko is really good at getting back up. She might just pop back up. And then what? And then now Pena has to worry about knees and elbows and all sorts of stuff. And if she can't keep Shevchenko down, the fight will probably get finished. The striking gap is so big that I can't imagine Pena lasting for 25 minutes if she can't get this down. And then you figure if Pena can get Shevchenko down and keep her down, she probably finishes it. So the under at plus money is looking pretty good. But my official bet, as tracked on my betmma.tips account at the 30-26 breakdown, is 2.2 units at minus 110 to win 2 units, and I'm still considering the under 4.5 at plus 145, which is tempting, man, because you figure if Pena wins, she's probably going to get a stoppage, and you figure if Pena can't get it down and it's on the feet for most of it, Shevchenko probably gets a stoppage. So makes sense to me, man. I don't know. I'm going to do a little more thinking about it and maybe play around with the percentages a little more. But it seems like a decent bet to maybe throw half a unit on. We'll see. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what your plays are for UFC Denver. And I'll be back with another video on my Assunção Sterling fight play in a couple of days. Thanks. Talk to you soon.